Okay guys, I just got a Basher Rocksta in the mail. It's the kit version, so I'm going to put some stuff together. I also bought the upgraded metal gears, so I figured I'd just do a video on how I install those. And I'll probably end up putting the motors in too, because I bought those as well. So first things first, you just pop this link off. Pop the link off on the other side. You undo the shock screw on either side, and then there's just the third link that you pop off. And then the axle comes off. I got a little ahead of myself here, but so once you pop off the three links, I guess, and unscrew the shocks, I just put the screws back in so I don't lose them and get them all mixed up. Took the wheels off, obviously. I'm not sure what size the bolt is. I ended up using a 5.5mm. All of my metric and imperial sizes were kind of sloppy, but that one was the closest. The only thing to watch for is there's little pins. So I just took those out and put them in the wheel before I lost them. So then you're left with something like this. And so far all I've done is just disconnect the steering linkage because the diff case is in two halves. So you'll have to disconnect this. And then there is a servo mount. It's got 3 screws on it, one on the front. It's got 3 screws on it, one on this side and 2 on the other side. It sits like this. So one on the one side, and then 2 on the side with the steering arm. Okay, so the next step is to remove this screw, and that screw. These 2 screws are already out because they hold the servo on. So there's 3 more around the perimeter, and then the case just slides apart. Okay, so when you take the 2 halves apart, the gear on the motor side is the only one that's different. It's got a little slot and it's thicker. So, which makes sense because when you get the metal replacement gears, there's 5 that are the same and 1 that is thicker with the slot. So you just have to make sure this one goes in the side with the motor. And the other side, it looks like we'll just have to take them out and then replace them with the good new ones. And there's one. I don't know if you can see, there's one that's down in there, so we might have to, we'll probably have to take this last 2 screws off, there and there, I'm guessing. So we'll see how that goes. So this big gear actually rides on a bearing, so when you pull it out, you'll just have to make sure you get the bearing on. And it actually, the other side is slotted. Whoa. The other side is slotted. So when you put it back on, you just have to make sure you seat that bearing and gear on the slotted shaft and make sure the bearing's down all the way, and that should be it. Okay, so I did have to take off this screw and this screw. And then this back little cover comes off. Actually, it doesn't come off all the way because the axle, that bolt nut is, or bolt I guess, is blocking it, so I'll have to take that off as well. Okay, so once you take out the 2 screws on the axle, then this whole assembly pulls out. And we can finally take this cover off. Once you take the cover off, there's that gear, and it rides on that little shaft. So we can replace that gear and put the cover back on, I think. If you can see down there, I got the metal gear on the other side, and I slipped the second metal gear on the shaft. There's a little washer under there you got to make sure you put back on. Then I put the cover back on, and I put the axle back on with these two little screws. So now it's all easy from here. The little spacer on the shaft you put on, and then it slips down into there. Okay, so now I actually put screws back on the cover, and you just start dropping gears on. Yeah, it's as easy as that. And then as you can see when you put it back together, the slot on this shaft, will fit into this gear. Alright, so when everything's pushed together, you can just spin the shaft. You can hear the gears moving, so that's good. I think I'm actually going to remove this back cover to get the motor on. Looks like it'll be easier that way. So we can just screw everything back together in the reverse order. Okay, so here it is all together. You just put those 3 screws back in, and I bolted up the steering. And before I put the servo on, I'm going to take out this screw and this ball mount or whatever it's called, and then I think the cover will come off and I can put the motor in. These are the same 5.5mm size, which is handy. Yep, and then the cover comes off. So you should be able to just slip the motor in. These are the stock Basher Rocksta motors. I got them because they came with the pinions. I could have got fancier motors, but maybe later. You want to have the flat part of the motor facing up, or back, I guess. And that's it. Except to get the gears to mesh, you have to turn it, which is tricky. Alright, so I've just put a wheel on. They seem to be jammed up, so I'll have to take something apart. Okay, so I moved the motor back a bit, and I'm just going to turn it while pushing in.